Hey guys, it's Kat. So, like I said in the description, due to so many life constraints and time constraints and all what have you, I'm actually going to be live reading Mercedes Lackey's Magic's Pawn, Book 1 of the Last Herald Mage Trilogy, Chapter 9. Still can't say that all in one breath. So, today you'll really get to see how many mistakes I make while reading. Normally, it takes hours and hours and hours of editing to get even to the, by my standards, even low quality and mediocre readings that I do because I'm not a professional. I don't have any super fancy audio equipment other than I use Audacity and Shotcut to make my videos. So that my bookmark is in the wrong place. Well, wow. Okay. Um, I did have chapter 9 um, already read and ready to go to the editing phase, but I lost those files and I took a vacation. I'm currently on summer holiday. Work has gotten in the way of everything, so I'm so sorry for how late this is. When was the last video put up? I think it was put up almost 6 months ago. I'm so sorry. I say that so much, but all I can really say is just I'm sorry. So, question of the day: if you guys were a herald, those of you that have been kind of with this series, if you were a herald, not a herald mage, and you got to choose your gift, what gift would you have? I'd like to see your responses in the comments below or even in the chat that I have going right now. So when you get here, chime in, say hi. And warning, I get very distracted while I read. It takes an act of God to get me to focus for about the hour, hour and a half it takes me to read one chapter of this book. Um, Let me check to see how long this one is. I am blabbering on. Good job, Kat. You're such good content. This chapter, chapter 9, is about 21 pages, so a little bit shorter than some chapters. So, um, not the finale, I should say, of this entire book, but for those of you that know what happened last chapter, woo, it was a doozy. So let's get right into it. Mercedes Lackey's Magic's Pawn, Chapter 9, Book 1 of the Last Herald Mage Trilogy. Let's get right into it, shall we? After 4 minutes and 15 seconds of me blabbering on about nothing. Chapter 9. Vaniel stumbled through the pouring, frigid rain. He was half blinded with grief, with no hope of finding comfort anywhere in this world. There was nothing left for him. Nothing. He's dead. Oh God, he's dead, and it's all my fault. His whole body seemed to be on fire, a slow, smoldering pain that was burning away at him from the inside, the way the ice of his dream had chilled him. But there was no reason to fight ice or fire anymore. Let either or both eat him. He couldn't care. Rain pounded him, hail struck like slung stones. His head reeled and pounded with his pulse. He hurt. but he welcomed the pain. It's all I deserve. It was all my fault. He couldn't see where he was going, and he didn't give a damn. He tripped and fell any number of times, but bruises and cuts didn't matter. He just picked himself back up and kept running in whatever direction he happened to be facing. His whole universe had collapsed. The moment Tyrendel had thrown himself off that tower, somewhere down in the depths of his soul was the dim thought that if he ran far enough, ran fast enough, he might run off the edge of the world and into an oblivion where there would be no more feeling and no more pain. He didn't run off the edge of the world, quite. He ran off the bank into the river. The ground just disappeared under his feet, and he flailed his arms wildly as he half fell, half tumbled down the bank, and somersaulted at the bottom into the icy water. It closed over his head, and the cold shocked him into an instant of forgetfulness. He lost the desire for oblivion as instinct took over, and he fought back to the surface. He gulped air, shook water out of his eyes, and in a flash of lightning saw an oncoming tree limb too late to dodge it. He managed to turn away from it, but it hit him across the back of the head and knocked him under again. The second time his head broke the surface, he was dazed and unthinking. In another glare of lightning, he saw the branches of a bush beside him and grabbed at them. They were too far away. Far out of his frantic reach. Then the bush shook violently and seemed to stretch toward him. He snatched at the ends of the branches. He caught them, somehow. They cut into his hand, but he managed to pull himself into the shallows. He had just enough strength left to crawl halfway up into the rain-slick bank, and just enough mind left to wonder why he'd bothered to save himself. He lay face down in the sodden, dead grass on the bank, chilled and numb, and growing colder, and racked with anguish, guilt, and mourning. Lenville, it was all my fault. Oh, God, it was all my fault. I should have told Seville. I should have tried to stop you. He sobbed into the rough grass, the damp-smelling earth, longing inarticulately for the power of a god to reverse time, unmake all that had happened. I'm sorry. Oh, please, someone, take it all back. If you have to have someone, take me instead. Make it a dream. Oh, God, please. But it wasn't a dream, no more than the rain that was diluting his tears, or the icy water that tugged at his legs. And no god intervened to unmake the past. The wintry cold was closing in on him, chilling the fire along his veins. He was too weak to move, and too tired, and far too grief-stricken to care. It occurred to him that when he might die here, as alone as Tyrendel had died, it was no less than his deserts. And he changed his prayers. Please, he asked, desperately, of powers that were not answering. Please, let me die. He thought of every mistake he had made, every wrong turning, and moaned. I deserve to die, he thought in anguish, closing his eyes. I want to die. No. The mind voice was bright as a flame, and sharp as steel, piercing his dark hope for death. No, you must not. You must live, chosen. He raised his head a little, but couldn't get his eyes open, and didn't really want to. You don't know, he thought bleakly back at the intruder. Let me alone. No one wants me. No one should want me. I kill everything I care for. But someone grabbed him by the back of the collar and half dragged him up the bank. He tried to twist away, but his body wouldn't work right anymore, and all he did was thrash feebly. Heartbeats later, the rain was no longer pounding on his back, and the green-smelling, soft moss under his weakly moving hands was dry. He'd been pulled into some kind of shelter. Whatever had him let go of his collar and lowering him gently onto the moss, he managed to get his eyes open, but with the lightning fading off in the distance, he could see nothing but blackness. Something warm and large lay down beside him with a sigh. A soft nose nuzzled his cheek, like Galahad. Hair in my face. Woo! The sensation brought up memories that cut cut him into little shreds. He brought his knees up under his chest and curled up on himself, sobbing uncontrollably, driven to the edge of sanity by grief and loneliness. But I am here. He brought his head up a little and looked for the speaker with vision blurred by tears, and in the last glare of the lightning met a pair of glowing sapphire eyes, eyes so full of compassion and love that he knew that their owner would forgive him anything. That love reached out for him and flowed over into him. It couldn't erase his loss, but it could share the pain, and it didn't blame him for what had happened. He uncurled and groped for the smooth, white neck and shoulder the way he had seized on the branches of the bush to keep free from drowning. He sobbed himself into exhaustion on that shoulder, wept until he hadn't the strength to sleep, hadn't the strength to shed another tear, and into a kind of fevered half-sleep. And all the while that bright voice murmured, like a litany over and over, into his mind, I am here, my chosen. I love you. I will never leave you. Seville, we found him. Marduk burst into the room that had been Vaniel and Tyrelndale's, dripping from head to toe, and shivering from the draught from the door behind him. As he turned to close the door, Seville dredged up energy she hadn't dreamed she still possessed, and started to rise. Jason and healer Andrew simultaneously seized her by the shoulders and pushed her back down into her chair. Where? She demanded, her in a voice hoarsened by weeping. Who found him? Is he all right? I don't know. The companions found him. Euphondes did, anyway. Marduk replied vaguely, swaying with weariness, looking colorless with exhaustion in the yellow candlelight. She found him on the garden side of the river and dragged him into a grotto. Tandris thinks he's sick. Something like backlash, but he can't tell for sure. He's trying to persuade her to let him bring Van back here so Andrew can take care of him. Seville shook her head, trying to make sense of his words. Marduk, what are you trying to tell me? What has Euphondes got to do with anything? She won't let anyone lay a finger on him, Seville, Marduk replied, blinking, and still shivering despite the warmth of the room. She's adamant about it. Damn near took Tantris's hand off when he tried to get at Van. She told my Fortin that she doesn't trust any of us to protect him and keep him under shield properly. That we won't understand what we've got, that he's hurt, all torn up inside his mind, and we can't begin to help him. Marduk, Jason said slowly, are you saying that Euphondes chose Vaniel, the only full-grown companion, turn the page, in the field that hasn't chosen, the companion that hasn't chosen for over 10 years, and now she's chosen Vaniel? She didn't come out and say so, but I guess she did, Marduk said, fatigue slurring his words as he slumped against the doorframe. I don't know why in hell she'd be curled up around him like he was her foal otherwise, and not letting us near him. We think he's unconscious. He isn't moving and he isn't responding when we talk to him. But Euphondes won't let anyone close enough to get a good look at him. Seville exchanged startled looks with the Seneschal's herald. Excuse me. But it was healer Andrel who put their thoughts into words. By Lady Bright, he murmured, green eyes gone round with consternation. What in the havens is this going to mean? Vaniel swam up out of a feverish, fitful nightmare, prodded by an insistent voice in his head. He moaned and opened dry, hot eyes that ached and burned. His head still pounded. I'm so, so, so sorry, guys. Unfortunately, due to life popping up again, I am going to have to cut the stream short. I'm so sorry. Bye.